So understanding irrigation, part one is how the plant responds in the soil beneath. And I'm just going to give a very quick talk about why is water essential to the plant. And that's going to be followed up by Ben, who's going to talk about how does water move in the soil and how does water movement in the soil influence properties of the soil and the tree. So I'll launch into my little short presentation now, which is why is water essential to the tree? And just a second, I want to. So I thought I'd just give a little bit of information. This is a little bit older data from 2016, but in this graph, you can see the water use in millions of acre feet for agriculture. This is everything for agriculture, just not avocados, and urban water use. And this goes from 1960 to 2014, the data set, 2010. And you can see that agriculture does, by and large, use the bulk of the water used in California. But that's not to say that, that we're unique. This is typical of situations where you have irrigated agriculture. This is also from the same report about water application, how much water is applied to different groups of agricultural commodities. And you can see that subtropical fruit crop, which includes citrus, avocados, olives, kiwi fruit, and other miscellaneous crops, sort of falls, it's not the best, but it's not the worst, because I know avocados have been getting a lot of press lately as being water hogs. Well, they're really not a water hog compared to some other things. So we're right there, it's sort of in the middle, but we need to be more efficient on how we use our water and apply the water. And long term, we need to be looking for new rootstocks and varieties that perhaps are more water use efficient. So why is water essential? Well, if we think again as the avocado tree of being like a factory, and the output of the factory is fruit, there's a lot of inputs that go into that factory to influence the efficiency of that factory. So that's light, carbon dioxide, temperature, water, and nutrients. And today I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about water. So why is water essential? Well, about 80 to 90% of the plant is actually made up of water. And about 90% of the water taken up by the tree, this is a general statement, is lost through the process of transpiration. So that means only about 10% of the water that is actually taken up by the roots is actually used within the plant. And what is transpiration? Transpiration occurs when water is pumped up from the soil through the roots and into the plant. And that is all driven by the loss of water through the stomata or the stomates. And water fills a number of important roles in the physiology of the plant and drives many processes. So this is just a diagram of that process of transpiration. And you can see here the water is taken up by the roots. It's pumped up through the xylem, which is part of the vascular tissue of the plant. And it's pumped up primarily to the leaves. And on the underside of the avocado leaf, we have what we call stomates. And it's through the stomates that we have water loss through the process of transpiration. But that's very important to have that water loss. So because movement of the water through the plant, one of the things it does is water has a thermal property. So the temperature regulation, water, it doesn't heat or cool too quickly. So by that fact, as the water moves through the plant and evaporates off the surface of the leaves through the stomates, it actually acts as a cooling the plant. And so this process is called transpiration. The other thing is that the water is what moves nutrients and solutes throughout the plant as it's moving up the xylem tissue and through the phloem after photosynthesis. It also, this was something that I never really thought of, but water is transparent. And since the bulk of the plant is made up of water, it allows sunlight to penetrate into the cells of the leaves, and that in turn powers the process of photosynthesis in the plant cells, in the leaves. So it also is very important in many biochemical processes that occur within the plant, and two examples of that is respiration of photosynthesis. So this is what is respiration. It's a process that you take the building blocks like carbohydrates, like in this equation, glucose, and you convert it to carbon dioxide, water, and heat, which is also energy. And that is used for metabolism within the plant. So it basically provides the energy for life. And so one of the products of respiration is water. So for a good example of this is when an avocado ripens. When the avocado ripens, it has a very high rate of respiration. And as it ripens, it produces a lot of heat, one of the highest in most fruit crops as they ripen. And it also has it can have a lot of water loss. And that's why it's very important when people are ripening avocados that you ripen the fruit at very high relative humidity. So the recommendation for ripening avocados, for instance, is to ripen the fruit at 90 to 95% humidity so that you mitigate that water loss so you don't have shriveling in the fruit. But photosynthesis, from a plant perspective, photosynthesis is very important because photosynthesis provides the building blocks for everything else that goes on in the plant. So the plants make carbohydrates out of the air by taking in carbon dioxide. They use water from the plant and energy from the sun to produce glucose and also oxygen. And that's why we need plants to help maintain the homeostasis of the world, actually, in terms of this greenhouse effect that everybody talks about. So photosynthesis is a critical control point in the plant. And the leaves actually control the movement of water in the plant and where photosynthesis takes place. So how do the leaves do that? It's because on the lower surface, this is actually a picture of a Hass avocado leaf. And so on the lower surface of the leaf, you see those small little kidney-shaped things, these little dots. And those are the stomates, the stomata on the lower end. And here's a close-up on the bottom of the slide of a stomate of a Hass avocado leaf. And this stomate happens to be open. You can see that that pore is open, and that means it's releasing water vapor into the air, and it's taking in carbon dioxide into the plant to cause as a process of photosynthesis. So if we think about it, then the stomate has regulated opening. And so it takes carbon dioxide from the air, moves it into the leaf, is assimilated through the process of photosynthesis, and it produces carbohydrates and ultimately oil in the fruit. On the other hand, we have water that moves up from the roots, is in the leaf, and it moves into the air when the stomates are open. And that water loss, again, is transpiration, the transpirational loss of water in the plant. And that transpiration then provides cooling to the leaf surface, and also provides the opportunity for nutrients to move in the plant. So once a stomate closes, you no longer have photosynthesis occurring, and you no longer have transpiration. So the leaves can actually overheat if the stomates close. So it's very important then that we are able to provide adequate water to the roots so that we can keep this process going. And ultimately, that knowledge of transpiration off of the plant and all the other inputs is what contributes to what we call the water balance and scheduling of irrigation when we think about ET, which is evaporation off the soil and transpiration. And this will be talked about in much greater detail in one of the forthcoming sessions. So I just want to end with this, of that stomates then, how open the stomates are controls photosynthesis, and it also controls water uptake. So we can look at the stomatal conductance is a measurement of basically how open the stomates are. And the more open they are, the higher the number, the higher the rate of the photosynthesis and the movement of water or transpiration through the stomates. This is a very simplistic explanation that we'll cover in much greater detail when we talk about plant-water relations. But I just want to show you, this is real data of Hass on Duke 7. This data was collected in Fallbrook, but you can see then that this is early morning time. On the left side of these three graphs, these are three different trees. And then you can see how the stomates have opened and they reach peak opening right around 10 to 12 o'clock in the day. So that is the time of peak photosynthesis in the tree. And so that's very important. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you, again, this is data that we gathered by using sap flow meters. Again, in Fallbrook on Hass on Duke 7, you can compare the red, which is the east side of the tree, versus the blue, which is the west side of the tree. And you can see how water moves through the tree in relationship to the sunlight hitting the leaves, causing the stomates to open and driving water movement in the tree. So it's very important then to recognize that light is regulating water flow within the tree. So in conclusion, why is water essential? It's essential for the plant to grow and produce fruit. The tree needs an adequate supply of water. Water is important for cooling of the plant, movement of minerals and nutrients within the plant, and it provides a substrate for many of the biochemical processes that occur during growth and development. So the rest of these series and the rest of today is really going to focus on how can we be efficient in supplying water to the tree, and how can we be efficient in then our irrigation practices. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben, who's going to talk for the rest of the talking portion of the meeting.